I am not prepared for this fight. I'm not physically prepared for this fight. I am not mentally prepared for this fight. I am not emotionally prepared for this fight. I am not in any way, shape, or form ready to see these two fighters go toe-to-toe, the last dance, legends only, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, the Diamonds retirement fight, New Orleans, Louisiana, UFC 318. I just hope both teams have fun. Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier will meet for a third time and complete their trilogy this upcoming Saturday at UFC 318 in Dustin Poirier's retirement fight in his home state of New Orleans, Louisiana in the Smoothie King Center. They have shared the octagon together for 28 minutes and 23 seconds through their first two bouts, with Dustin Poirier going 2-0 in both of them, a submission against Max Holloway way back at UFC 143 in February of 2012 in what was Max Holloway, a young 20-year-old Max Holloway, mind you, at that time, his UFC debut. And they would meet a second time at UFC 236 in April of 2019, this time in the lightweight division with an interim lightweight championship on the line with Khabib Nurmagomedov on the sidelines due to his suspension. We would see Poirier take on Max Holloway in a 5-round war in one of the best fights of 2019, and unfortunately it kind of gets forgotten about because of how damn good the fight between Israel Adesanya and Kelvin Gastelum was on the very same card. And Poirier would get the advantage on Max Holloway for a second time, this time over the course of a 25-minute decision. And Dustin Poirier would become the interim lightweight champion of the world. But outside of their first two bouts and then meeting for a third and final time here this upcoming weekend, their histories and their stories together go so much deeper. They both have 22 wins and 8 losses in the UFC, 22 wins being tied for the third most numerically in UFC history. Dustin Poirier has 15 finishes in his UFC career out of those 30 bouts, putting him at the 4th most all-time numerically, and Max Holloway has 13 finishes, putting him at the 6th most amount all time. They both are tied for the 3rd most knockout victories in UFC history alongside Anderson Silva and Anthony Rumble Johnson with 11. Max Holloway has the 3rd longest win streak all time in UFC history, tied with numerous people with 13 in a row. Dustin Poirier sits with 15 post-fight bonuses, 4th most all time, and Max Holloway sits at 13. Max Holloway has the 2nd longest fight time in UFC history with a whopping 8 hours, 2 minutes, and 43 seconds. Dustin Poirier has landed 14 knockdowns in his UFC career, putting him at number 4 on the list. Max Holloway sits at number 1 all-time in significant strikes landed with a whopping 1,300 strike difference between him at 3,457 and the 2nd most all-time Sean Strickland at 2,197. And Dustin Poirier is a little bit lower down on the list with the 8th most significant strikes landed of all time with 1,752. That means combined, the main eventers of UFC 318, Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, have put up a total of 5,209 total significant strikes landed. Max Holloway, the former featherweight champion for multiple years and for multiple title defenses, 3 to be exact, spanning from 2017 to 2019, and Dustin Poirier, a former interim champion and 3-time undisputed title challenger. It's up for debate that Dustin Poirier may just be the greatest fighter of all time to never hold undisputed gold around his waist. And more so than the records, more so than the accolades, these two are fantastic ambassadors for the sport of mixed martial arts. They are incredible human beings that give back to their communities respectively in Louisiana and in Hawaii. They are family men to their core, and they embody 3 words that are well known in the wrestling world of hustle, loyalty, and respect. It doesn't get bigger and it doesn't get better for a retirement fight for Dustin Poirier than to go out with his rival, but it's not a rival out of hatred, it's a rival out of love and competition of the game. And you're going to be hard-pressed to find 2 fighters that are more beloved by the MMA community than Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway, and they're going to be locked in the cage one final time for one last dance. Max Holloway will enter this fight coming off of his featherweight championship loss to Ilia Topuria back at UFC 308 in October, where Ilia Topuria would become the first man to ever finish Max Holloway by way of strikes. But prior to that, Max was on a 3-fight win streak, with 2 of the 3 being by way of vicious knockout, one against the Korean Zombie and the other against Justin Gaethje in their all-time classic bout at UFC 300 last April, where he would finish him with one punch with 1 second left to go after giving us all his world-famous emote of pointing down to the ground and banging it out with Justin Gaethje. One man was going to fall, and it wasn't going to be Max Holloway on that night. And of course, it's worth taking into consideration that that fight with Justin Gaethje last April was at 155 pounds, and now it seems all but certain that Max Holloway is going to be finishing his career at 155 pounds, as he has said as such in multiple interviews and exclusively first on his YouTube channel earlier in the year. And it's fair to say that he has done all that there is to do down at the 145-pound division, being a champion with multiple defenses over the course of multiple years, putting up that insane 13-fight win streak, beating legends like the Korean Zombie, Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo twice, Anthony Pettis, Charles Oliveira, Cub Swanson, not to mention studs like Brian Ortega, Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez, and Arnold Allen. He fought the who's who for a decade at 145 pounds, and now he will look to finish his career at 155 pounds, where he is 1-1 so far in the UFC, the big win over Justin Gaethje last year, and the loss 6 years ago to Dustin Poirier for interim gold. And for Dustin Poirier, he will enter his retirement bout coming in off of a loss last June to Islam Makhachev for the lightweight championship of the world that he would earn after taking on the number 12 ranked at the time in March of 2024, Benoit Saint Denis, where after facing big time adversity in round 1, he would put him to sleep in round number 2 with a vicious knockout. And we talked about how insane the legacy and resume is for Max Holloway, and you could say it's equally as impressive for Dustin Poirier outside of holding undisputed gold, because he has beaten Max Holloway 2 times. He has beaten Conor McGregor 2 times. He has beaten Bobby King Green. He has beaten Jim Miller, Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler, and Benoit Saint Denis, as previously mentioned. It's been a killer's row. There's no such thing as easy fights for either of these two men for over a decade at this point, entering July 19th, 2025. It's truly legends only. And we don't need to talk about the X's and O's. We know exactly what we're going to see from both these guys. They are going to go toe-to-toe for 25 minutes or less until one of them falls. It's that simple. And if it goes the full distance, you bet your ass it's going to be in the contention for Fight of the Year come December. For Dustin Poirier, it's one last ride. It's one last chance to get his hand raised, to get the BMF title wrapped around his waist and ride off into the sunset with it. And to prove that he went out his way. He did it my way, as the famous Frank Sinatra once said. And for Max Holloway, it's a chance for him to make good on his lightweight run to finish his career, to prove that he can contend for a title at 155 pounds, this time undisputed. It is the end of not only a chapter for Dustin Poirier, but the end of the book as a professional mixed martial artist, whereas for Max Holloway, it's the beginning of a new chapter at this point in his career. And unfortunately for me, and many of you watching, I'm sure, it is unfortunate that one of them will walk out of that octagon as the loser, and I want to hear from you all down in the comments below on who that will be, who will lose, and who will leave New Orleans as the winner and as the baddest motherfucker.